Today we're going to talk about Trump learning a quick lesson in the downside of unified control of government after he tried to blame a series of tragedies on Democrats. And I have 3 interviews this week. I sit down with Senator Raphael Warnock to discuss RFK's confirmation hearing and the hypocrisy of Republicans who hide behind their Christianity. I'm joined by Senator Adam Schiff to discuss Kash Patel's confirmation hearing and his unwillingness to tell the truth. And I interview Senator Klobuchar to discuss the willingness of Democrats to fight as Trump continues to engage in lawlessness. I'm Brian Tyler Cohen, and you're watching No Lie. So just about a week ago on this video podcast, I mentioned how the only silver lining about Republicans having unified control of government is that with Democrats out of power, they won't have anybody to blame for their failures. Now, I assume that it would take longer for this to bear itself out, but just over a week into Trump's administration now, the plane crash in Washington, D.C. put Trump in this exact position. So he was so desperate not to catch any flack for the crash that even though no one was casting any blame immediately after the crash, Trump decided to come out and point the finger at DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is basically the right's catch-all boogeyman. It's euphemism for black people. In other words, Trump recognized that he was the person in charge, and so in order to preempt having to take any responsibility, he wanted to lay down the marker that in fact he wasn't responsible, he wasn't accountable. And of course, that backfired in the sense that not only is he the president, not only are there no Democrats in power to point to, but he came into office and took all these steps to, quote, restore excellence in our federal aviation. Here's a small sampling of what I mean. On January 20th, Trump and Elon Musk pushed out the FAA administrator. They never bothered naming a replacement. Also on January 20th, Trump implemented a federal hiring freeze, which included air traffic controllers. And that's important because we would eventually come to find out that the crash involved one air traffic controller doing a job that would normally require 2 people. On January 21st, Trump disbanded the Aviation Security Advisory Committee and fired the TSA director. On January 22nd, his White House posted, "President Donald J. Trump ends DEI madness and restores excellence and safety within the Federal Aviation Administration." And then 1 week later, the first commercial plane crash occurred in 16 years. So that's it. There was no more DEI. Everything that happened in aviation moving forward was Trump's. He owns it now. He can't blame the woke Democrats. They're not in charge. And he ended their programs. Republicans are in charge. They run the House, they run the Senate, they run the White House. So how do you blame the people who you've replaced? And Trump knew that. So his next best option here, his only option here, was this amorphous concept of diversity, which of course, again, he would have been more successful at blaming if he didn't already make a big show of literally ending DEI. But there's a lesson here for Democrats too, and that is to know beyond a shadow of a doubt that Donald Trump and Republicans will fill any void with disinformation. There were still bodies in the Potomac when Trump started shouting about DEI, meaning nothing is sacred. And this has been a recurring theme on the right. They said that Obamacare would usher in death panels, and our silence on that issue made the narrative stick, and Democrats got eviscerated in the 2010 midterms. Republicans spent this whole election cycle here, this time, yelling about trans inmates getting gender reassignment surgeries in prison, which we didn't want to dignify with a response, and this election became a referendum on that issue. During the whole Biden era, we laughed off the Hunter Biden tape thing, and the Biden crime family became a war cry on the right. And now here we are, we allowed a plane to crash without jumping to conclusions, God forbid, only to let Trump turn it into a referendum on DEI. Their strategy is clear. So at this point, why ours isn't is inexcusable. But we'll have the chance to show that we've actually learned our lesson because now, as we engage in a trade war, we're again in the same boat. Costs are inevitably going to rise on all Americans. The Nonpartisan Tax Foundation found that we're going to endure increased costs amounting to $830 per household in this country. And in fact, red states are going to be hit particularly hard because Canada is specifically looking to target goods from Republican strongholds. For example, British Columbia's premier has directed the BC Liquor Distribution Branch to immediately stop buying American liquor from red states and remove the top-selling red state brands from the shelves of public liquor stores. Now, Trump won't be able to diffuse responsibility onto anybody else because, again, he is president, he owns this move, this was his unilateral decision, which means he owns the consequences of it. And given the fact that those consequences are going to be disproportionately aimed at states that voted for him, the pressure is going to be especially acute. So the question becomes whether we're willing to learn our lesson and message hard and fast. Trump has nobody to blame here for the problems that he's causing, but that doesn't mean he's still not going to try. So it's on the left to make sure that people know that. Next up are previews of my interviews with Senators Warnock, Schiff, and Klobuchar. But just a quick reminder, you are right now watching No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen. This is my once-weekly video podcast. It's identical to my once-weekly audio podcast. As you know, I have sponsors on the audio podcast and the video podcast, just this one episode per week. So here's a quick word from our sponsors, and then we'll get to the previews of my interviews with Senators Warnock, Schiff, and Klobuchar. No Lie is brought to you by Uplift Desk. I sit at my desk for really long days, and when 8 p.m. rolls around and it's too late to go and work out, I often find myself discouraged that I spent yet another day sitting for a long period of time. And honestly, I didn't know how to get around it until I found Uplift Desk. Uplift Desk is at the forefront of ergonomic solutions. It promotes better posture and health through adjustable standing desks that are designed to help you live a healthier lifestyle. And for me, just being able to stand and move throughout the day helps me focus and stay productive. I'm way more alert versus when I'm just slumped over in a chair all day long. Plus, they have all kinds of accessories and customization options so you can build the perfect workspace. I'm a particular fan of the added shelves for my monitors that give me the entire desk's real estate to use. So make this year yours by going to upliftdesk.com/BTC and use our code BTC to get 4 free accessories, same-day shipping, free returns, and an industry-leading 15-year warranty that covers your entire desk and an extra discount off your entire order. That's upliftdesk.com/BTC and use code BTC for a special order. And it's only available at our link. Start 2025 right. Stand, move, thrive with Uplift Desk. No Lie is brought to you by Armor Colostrum. Before I worked in politics, I spent years working in gyms. I'm really big on health products and ways to improve fitness and metabolism, and I've been hearing about Armor Colostrum for a while now. I didn't know what it was, I asked around, and I realized that damn near everybody I knew about it. It's really well known, and its health benefits are too. So here's the deal. Armor Colostrum strengthens immunity, it optimizes your whole body microbiome, and strengthens your immune barriers along the mouth, sinuses, lungs, gut, urinary, and reproductive tract to guard against unwelcome particles for your strongest immune health. And that's just scratching the surface. It also fortifies gut health, ignites metabolism, vitalizes hair growth, enhances skin radiance, and fuels performance and recovery. I'm using it right now. If you're looking to take advantage of the benefits, give it a try. Plus, we've worked out a special offer. Receive 15% off your first order. Go to tryarmra.com/BTC or enter BTC to get 15% off your first order. That's tryarmra.com/BTC. Going back to the tragic crash that happened in Washington, D.C., Donald Trump took to the podium and immediately started blaming diversity, blaming DEI. He also blamed Democrats. He blamed Joe Biden. He blamed Pete Buttigieg. He blamed the 2020 election. But the crux of what he was blaming was the very concept of diversity. Can I have your reaction to him failing to accept any responsibility for his own government and instead trying to vilify as a boogeyman the very concept of diversity and, more specifically, brown and black people?
I've not seen a worse response from a president in the wake of an awful tragedy. One of the roles of that office and its sacred trust is consoler in chief. In the course of a presidency, tragedies are bound to happen. That's the nature of life. And whether it's a terrible accident like what we saw last night, or a horrific school shooting, which we see too many of, people expect their president to show up on the scene and certainly insist that government finds out what happened here. And that's our work, and get to the bottom of it. But to take a beat and to take a moment and to comfort those who are directly impacted and the nation itself. I know a little something about this because long before I came to the Senate, I was and am a pastor. I've been with families as they've had to confront the unthinkable in their worst tragedies. And I can tell you, not just as a member of the Senate, but as a pastor, that for Donald Trump to pile on his politics and his bigoted agenda on top of the pain that these families are already feeling is way beyond the pale. How about take a moment and express and with some real depth the pain that people are feeling
Yeah.
in this moment. And then let's get to the bottom of this, that he would use this moment when bodies are still literally on the bottom of the Potomac and families are being notified, that he would use this moment to advance his agenda of attacking DEI and attacking Democrats speaks volumes. And not only is it shameful, quite frankly, it's dangerous. The reason why we have the safest aviation system in the world is because all prior presidents, Democrats and Republicans, have left politics out of this kind of investigation. He should do the same.
There were numerous instances where Akash Patel did appear to lie under oath, chief among them by pretending that he was unfamiliar with the January 6th insurrectionists who created that anthem, but also pretending not to know who a podcast host was, who he appeared with 8 times, refusing to answer whether or not he said he wants to turn the FBI into a museum to the deep state. Do your colleagues on the right have so little regard for their own advice and consent role that they're willing to just be lied to, all because this is a Republican nominee?
Well, I guess time will tell whether a sufficient number of them will reject this plainly unqualified, disqualified person. You know, I tried my best at the end of the hearing to appeal to my colleagues by saying, how is it that we even got here where we're considering someone so clearly unfit for this job when we've had other people like Chris Wray and others in the past who had great experience, who had integrity? How has it come to this, to Akash Patel? And the reason it's come to this is he rose with lightning speed through the first 4 years of Trump because he was the guy who would say yes to Donald Trump when everyone else would say, no, you can't do that. That's unethical. That's unlawful. I won't participate in it. I'll quit before I'll do that. Akash Patel is the guy who said, yes. What else can I do for you? That's why he's risen so fast. That's the ticket to progress in Trump world, which is the bigger the sycophancy, the faster you rise. And we'll find out soon, because in addition to Patel, there was Tulsi Gabbard today and RFK Jr. Is the Senate going to say yes to these patently unfit candidates for high office? If they do, it will bode very poorly for what the future is going to look like.
Is there any assurance that you have for folks watching? Because thus far, there is a sense of kind of I don't want to say like cynicism that there is a general sense of exhaustion, that we don't have really the fight that's necessary right now. And I know it's from the outside. Look, there's no women's march happening with hundreds of thousands of people taking to the streets, but at the same time there also is some doubt as to whether the folks who are in the minority right now. And so I understand, practically speaking, there's not much that can be done, but just some assurance that you can give that you are the first and in large part the last line of defense against the worst excesses of this administration.
We are, and you saw that, and some battles that we have already won, despite the fact that we literally have to get 4 Republicans on these nominations. Matt Gaetz had to withdraw his nomination. That happened.
Yeah.
There's a number of these hearings, especially the Kennedy hearing, where you saw a lot of pushback. We'll see what our Republican colleagues do because of their belief. Some of them actually believe in vaccines and believe in science. Tulsi Gabbard hearing, again, a lot of questions raised there. So you see this pushback. The abortion amendment they tried to get on. They tried to get in a provision that would have criminalized doctors and hurt families that were at the very most heartbreaking tales where they're losing their babies at the end of a pregnancy because of a physical issue with the child. These cases, we took that on and we won. We stood together and we won. Those are just the first of many. They rescinded that order. I think you're going to see this come time and time again. And it is not an easy time for anyone, but I think for your viewers and listeners, they need to know, we are big time in this. And we've got these incredible new members who have come into the Senate. And that's a big deal. We've got Adam Schiff in the Senate right now. You should have seen him with Kash Patel. Maybe some of you did. We've got Andy Kim out of New Jersey, Alyssa Slotkin out of Michigan, Lisa Blunt Rochester. We've got Angela Alsobrook out of Maryland. It's really kind of an incredible new energy that's going through this place. And I know that it's going to take time for people to see that, but I want them to know that we are fighting every single day. And what we look at is those midterm elections where we're so close in the House of Representatives, right? Right now, it's like 2 votes away.
Right.
And so that creates a lot of opportunities to try to stop real bad things, but it also makes it so that we could actually take the House. And, it's a harder toll, but with Senator Gillibrand leading the Senate Campaign Committee with the work that we can do in the Senate, we also have a chance of winning in the Senate. So that is what we are looking at in these next 2 years as we go forward. And we want people to be with us, but we have to pick our battles. And one of them is clearly when they're throwing people under the bus to give tax cuts for billionaires. One of them is clearly when they are engaging in corruption and firing inspector generals in the middle of the night that watch over taxpayer money.
Yeah.
So
Perfect.
part of the reason that people at home are starting to get interested in this and learning about it and watching it is because we're not being silent, right? We're not being silent. We're finding every way we can get out there to make our case.
And of course, to watch the full interviews, click the thumbnails right here on the screen or check out the interviews playlist on my YouTube channel. You can also click the link on the screen to listen to the audio version of this episode, and of course, to see more of my content, the subscribe button's on the screen as well.